So now let's go back and she just
Esther.
Ja, madam.
Yes is the word you're seeking.
Yes.
Yes, madam.
Yes, madam.
We are waiting. Take it away. We are not gluttons. Surely there's more to serve while it's still hot.
Okay.
So why don't I ask you? Let's start. I want to start out this way because this is what is the story and what is the journey that we want to take here and who if we're going to follow Esther because that's who we are following. How are we? What is her journey and what do we want to kind of follow at this point? And
So this is a story within the story. This is the first episode of Cruelty, or the first half of the episode of Cruelty, and it's a kind of a joke story. Esther's prepared all this food, and she's serving it to people who only want to eat a little bit of it, so she's very proud of herself, and she's sort of denied the ability to be proud in any way. So
Yes.
this is her first takedown, and the first indication that Madam is pretty cruel after all.
Right. Well, so for me, that all exactly it all makes sense. So she just met. We're going back a little bit. She just met Madam. Madam came down the stairs, and all of a sudden, Esther's in the kitchen cooking. And to me, that is and instantly when I got to this moment, I thought, okay, I need to create work music, and I thought. Because she's at work, and then I thought, well, actually, I don't have to create work music. That's exactly what the opening is. It's the work music. In fact, without realizing, I mean, I can remember thinking this like that is she's showing up to her job. She's very professional. She's at work. She's not messing around. She's all business, and thus we're back at work music. And so I kind of come back to that opening vibe to use as work music. So work music, she's working, she's cooking, she's very excited to prepare. She's a cook. I forgot, she's not the maid. She's a cook, and this is what she's great at. And she's really excited to create this huge meal, and she's so excited to share. And she walks into the room, and there's a screeching halt moment where all of a sudden she realizes, whoa, this is not a comfortable room. And she gets real quiet and real serious. And then we're left going, this is such an uncomfortable situation. So not only are we uncomfortable, was Esther uncomfortable, we as a viewer are uncomfortable, and I was uncomfortable. So I thought, well, I want to make this moment to be really uncomfortable. And as funny as all these little dishes are going back and forth it's really uncomfortable what's happening. And look at what Esther's watching, all this food being, oh, and take it away, take it away. So kind of playing the same thing. And you're right, there is a cruelty. And I felt like creating the uncomfortability allows the cruelty to kind of just seep out over it.
Right. I want to add a couple things.
Sure.
First of all, we're still not sure whether it's cruelty or just the way she is. She's short with Esther. We're waiting. She doesn't want a lot of food, but that could still be just she's finicky. We don't know yet that she's actually sadistic. We find that out later.
Sure, but there's something.
Thing is,
sorry.
I agree with you about not letting the discomfort off the hook. If I were scoring this, I would probably want to make sure you need some music to fill out the silence, but not, I wouldn't want to put, I'd want that music to be pretty quiet, as if the musicians didn't want to disturb the diners either.
Yes, because God forbid they get snapped. There were players there. They wouldn't want to ruin the mood.
Right. So
Comfortable.
the music would be right behind them.
Right.
And there's one other thing before we play yours. Oh, go ahead. Say what you were going to say.
Well, I was just going to say that I think that she comes into the situation, goes, and has never been here before at dinner, and goes, "What? I don't know what to do. What am I supposed to do? Well, I don't want to say anything. Am I going to do this?" Anyways, go ahead.
Yeah. The only other thing is there is some actual visual music in this scene. The way it is shot with the repeat. There's lots of beats in there, and I'm going to be very curious. I would, as a composer, want to take advantage of those visual beats to make the music sync with it, or even inspire the music, ba-da-da-da-da, 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 some kind of repeating in the music to match the repeating in there. You might not have chosen that route. I'm very curious to see how you handled the visual music that's in those scenes.
Well, sometimes, okay, that's a good point, and I always love when everybody loves when things line up, and we have to always be careful that you don't Mickey Mouse too much, which is the term for the cartoon, which the brilliant cartoon scoring Bugs Bunny and Mickey Mouse, where everything is Mickey Mouse and fitting exactly, and yet, boy, do we all love it. Everybody loves it. I love it, when it just kind of lines up really well. What you'll find, when I've been finding, a lot of times those things that happen also create a rhythm that you don't realize, and it's just there, and all of a sudden things are so close you almost don't have to do much of anything. So I may have done that a little bit. And just one other last thing to point out is after all the uncomfortableness, she's like, okay, get back to work, and the work music kind of comes back because she's got to now serve all the food, which is all those cuts that you're talking about. So.
Let's see what you did.
All right, here we go.
Esther. Yeah, madam.
Yes is the word you're seeking.
Oh, yes.
Yes, madam.
Yes, madam.
We are waiting. Take it away. We are not gluttons. Surely there's more to serve while it's still hot.
Okay, yeah, a couple comments for me. First of all, great. I love watching your skill at both creating some genuine music, like that sequence, da 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 da. So it's actually going somewhere, and yet it never gets in the way of the dialogue. You have perfectly stuck the music right where it needs to be, from actual musical phrases to just little boom boom. Boom, boom. Great stuff.
Well, by the way, thank you. I appreciate that. And by the way, that has come out of, everybody always says stay out of the way of the dialogue, which makes total sense. And you know what? You learn it the hard way when you work really hard. You create a great piece of music and it's all over the dialogue. And then you go to the mix and they have to turn the music way down so that you can hear the dialogue. And you sit there and go, all that work and nothing. So you realize if you stay out of the way of the dialogue, your music doesn't get turned down.
Yeah.
Funny. It's weird. It's almost like, it's almost out of a weird ego thing. You like, and sometimes I'll be like, can we turn the music up? And the producers will be like, what, do you want me to take the dialogue out? And I'm sometimes be like, yeah, that'd be great. And of course they know I'm joking, and I am joking, but I realize, and I appreciate that, because that is the trick. Stay out of the way of the dialogue, because your music gets turned way down. And it's not always possible, but.
And in
Anyway.
terms of the visual beats, I thought your music synced very well with them.
Thank you.
It wasn't, like you said, cartoony, where you could tell you were trying to hit those beats, but there was a really nice mesh. It felt like the music matched what I was seeing. So that was
Great.
really neat.
Cool. Thank you. All right. Next bit.
Let's carry on. Yeah, what's next?
All right. So obviously now the story goes. So she's just made all that food and she's told to clear it all,
Yep.
and now she deals with that.
Esther, Madam is retiring for the night. You must dispose of this right away.
All of it?
Here, it is most unfashionable to eat a meal that has not been freshly prepared.
I must misunderstand.
It's simple enough.
Aren't you hungry?
Do as you're told, girl.
Esther!
Yes, madam.
You are filthy. Giles will relieve you. Come along. We're so fortunate that life on the farm left you so well-rounded. It was such a shame to lose Bridget on such short notice.
Of course, madam. Cooking is my specialty, but I don't mind helping until you find a new girl.
Your task today is of the utmost importance. I shall wait for you in my boudoir, but do not step a foot inside until you have bathed.
So there's actually a dovetail. It's the end of the previous story and the beginning of the next one. And yet there is a common characteristic, which is that the butler, who we've seen being brutal, we now see to some extent as more of a victim than we saw before. And he's also, there's this wonderful moment between them when she asks, "Aren't you hungry?" where this is Esther beginning to assert her humanity over the brutality of the situation. This is the first instance of that. And so her kindness eats into the butler just a little bit. It's a really nice, unexpected moment. Not just her asking, but his response, his hesitation. Like, I'm not used to being treated nicely. No. So I think this would be a hard scene for me to score. I would find it, I'd find myself a little tied up. I'd probably try to overdo it. So I think my tendency, I would want to try to back off and just underscore there's so much happening here already that I think I'd want to make sure I stayed out of the way of it.
So that's okay. I loved everything you just said because that's the hardest thing I'm finding and I still finding, and I will find forevermore, which is the balance of overscoring, underscoring, what to score, what not to score. And sometimes you don't need, the better scene is the less you need to do with it. So the question too is, because I think I struggle with that too, overscoring. So the question is, what do you do? What's important to do in the scene? And sometimes you got to try a little bit and try it and see it and go, and what makes you feel right. But staying out of the way of some of those little turns and stuff, that gets too complicated. You're kind of doing bigger pictures, like bigger brush strokes. So for me, what is, the big brush strokes, she's just been kicked out. Well, she's been told to bring all the food back in. She's going to be told it's all done, they're retiring. So, and then she offers the food, and then she has to get rid of the food, right? And thus, to me, the big gesture is is coming down off of all the craziness of serving the food. And then what happens to the big important thing for me is, what does she have to feel? What does she feel that she has to throw this food out and nobody wants it? All her hard work, not just her hard work gone unappreciated, including by the butler and the madam, but the fact that she's throwing out all this food that anybody could eat. It's such a waste, and it's that's where the evilness is, that this woman is, that she has no care that this food is just being wasted, and what that feels like for her. So that's, to me, the big scene is to get that and let the other things kind of play. And the response is, the bigger brushstroke is like, oh my God, I can't believe all that work, unappreciated. I would throw it out. How do I feel? Because in a way, that music is how do I feel? How do I, as a viewer, feel about it? It's like, wow, that's terrible. So that scene finishes, and then you exactly said the right word. You dovetail into this new scene. So the trick is, I played a little bit like, what happens if you end the scene and then we're in the next scene? But I felt like I couldn't not only could I not get the music done, but I felt like my emotions as a viewer still carried me into the next scene, and I was still living in all that. And even though the next scene started, it still kind of was there. So I felt like I kind of played that across the scene to help me kind of finish my feeling and then take up the next feeling. Which is kind of the important thing. And then that scene ends, and the next scene begins, which is the madam talks to Esther and basically says, "I want you to do all this stuff for me." And Esther's saying, "Look, I'm just a cook. I'll help out until you hire your new maid, but I'm not going to do. That's not what I do." She won't stand up to her, but she kind of says, "Hey, cooking's my specialty. Y'all help out though until the maid." And the madam doesn't, you know. And then the madam pokes fun at her and says, basically, makes a whole thing about you need a bath. You stay.
Right.
Right. And there's something jolting about that. So anyway, so
Hear what
that's
you've done.
all right. There you go.
Esther, Madam is retiring for the night. You must dispose of this right away.
All of it?
Here, it is most unfashionable to eat a meal that has not been freshly prepared.
I must misunderstand.
It's simple enough.
Aren't you hungry?
Do as you're told, girl.
Esther!
Yes, madam.
You are filthy. Giles will relieve you. Come along. We're so fortunate that life on the farm left you so well-rounded. It was such a shame to lose Bridget on such short notice.
Of course, madam. Cooking is my specialty, but I don't mind helping until you find a new girl.
Your task today is of the utmost importance. I shall wait for you in my boudoir, but do not step a foot inside until you have bathed.
Okay, so there's something I want to point out that you did, and I may be giving away one of your trade secrets here, but I've got to know if it was intentional or just happened that way. When Esther says to the butler, "Aren't you hungry?" the strings are going, "Aren't you hungry?"
No, but yes, I intend to. No, I didn't do that.
Because that's really it. It's right there. It's a wonderful echo of the dialogue. It's perfect.
That's so funny. I never heard that, and sure, I mean, of course. No, that's awesome. I love that you heard that. I didn't. Are you hungry? That's true. What's interesting is, and is right just there at the very end of that scene we stopped, she makes fun of her about bathing, and you hear that again, the dunk,
Yeah.
dunk, and that I used also earlier when at the dining room table when there's a little bit of a moment. So I started using that as kind of this kind of aggressive, this kind of pokey, like I'm poking at you.
Yeah.
That's the feeling. I'm like, gosh, this woman's just poking me. As a viewer, I just felt that. I hate to be that literal, but that's kind of what I was thinking. Not, are you hungry?
You can see it in Esther. Every time the madam says something like that, she is taken aback. She goes,
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
And
it is. So it's aggressive, and even though it's quiet in the score, and if you'll listen to it on your side, it is aggressive. Like I feel like these little things, even though it's quiet, these are quiet aggressions that she's dealing with that we have to bring out, and it gives it a little comical vibe because it is kind of funny. So that this goes in. Let's start the next scene, but this whole next moment is well. Anyway, let's just let's start. I'm just going to come back a little bit beforehand, just so you can get in. So we'll start it up at about 4:51:4.
But I don't mind helping until you find a new girl.
Your task today is of the utmost importance. I shall wait for you in my boudoir, but do not step a foot inside until you have bathed. Yes, they are exquisite, and each one a memory of the man who bought them. But I have little use for them now. Mildred is turning 17 on Sunday.
Oh, the Santa Lucia Day. What a blessing.
We are Presbyterian.
Oh, no, in Sweden, all the girls celebrate Santa Lucia Day.
I didn't ask you to explain. Go ahead, my dove. Now, Esther, When you finish assisting Mildred, you must iron my blouse. It is my most prized possession. Last summer, when I was having my riding trousers tailored, taken in, of course, with my girl, one of the last English-speaking seamstresses in San Francisco, I'm afraid, who should burst in but Josephine Phelps, my neighbor, nouveau riche, demanding service for some contrived emergency. My girl was forced to serve her to maintain calm, while I sat there for half an hour with a needle in my thigh while she ordered this. And I told my girl, as soon as she left, that I would pay her triple for the fabric if she would sell it to me and tell that little upstart that the fabric didn't come in time. Oh. Madame Phelps and her son will be in attendance at the party, and so your work must be flawless. Do you understand? Then you are dismissed.
Okay, there's three things about this scene that are interesting to me. First, it is the introduction of the daughter. This is our first time seeing the daughter, who is going to have her own mini arc of subservience and then rebellion. But her introduction to Esther is kind of it's neutral, slightly antagonistic, but not cruel. She's piling dresses on Esther because she's 17 and she's always been pampered, and she doesn't really realize that she's causing harm to Esther. That's one. Two is that Esther is once again trying to assert her humanity in this situation. She's pushing against the madam a little bit by telling her about Santa Lucia Day, and even has the gall to continue to talk about it when it's clear she should stop. And so I think I might want to put a little something in the music to buffer that. Maybe whatever the music might communicate about Esther, bumping up against this a little bit, pushing a little bit, maybe giving us a glimpse. And the third thing, this is great filmmaking. I've watched this film now. This is my third time watching this film. And every time Madam explains that blouse, I cannot for the life of me follow the story. I still have no idea what she just said. I tried, but the action in the background with the dresses piling on, I am totally as confused as Esther. The filmmaker did a fantastic job of making sure I felt as confused and unable to listen as Esther.
Yeah, that's so funny. I actually had the same problem. So let's go back and distill bigger gestures, because this again I was like, what's the story? And we need to go back a little bit before the dresses pile up. She's told, go take a bath, you smell, and then meet me in the boudoir. So now we're in the boudoir. What are the big gesture moments that we have? So this is for me. I'm looking at this scene. So what do you like? I'm gonna throw it back at you. It's the scene in the boudoir when she first looks at the dresses. Do you want me to show it to you? And what do you feel? Let me just pull it back. So it's 16. I'm just gonna pull it back to about 5:05:12. Okay, and play. Okay. And here you see this scene happen. This one scene at the boudoir.
Yes, they are exquisite, and each one a memory of the man who bought them.
All right, looking at her, looking at this moment, looking at the shots, what is it that you feel? And then what do you want to feel watching this? What do you think she's feeling?
It feels for a moment like Madam is softening, which she isn't. But I feel like, she's confiding in Esther, and Esther's got these wonderful dresses around her. So it almost feels like there's a sort of safety and joy in it that I wasn't expecting.
Okay, great. I would take Madam right out, and I'm just with Esther, and I'm in a bad situation. It's already felt weird. I've been made fun of, and now I'm looking at these dresses and look at the way the light's coming in behind her, and everything's lit up, and there's something warm and inviting, and just she's caught up in the beauty of these dresses and the beauty of the moment, and the way it's shot. I want to feel that. I am not even paying attention to Madam. I don't think she is either. To the point that then what happens? What happens after that? What happens is she tries to bring up, oh, this is so cool, your daughter, St. Esther's Day, oh, I love this, is amazing. And Madam goes, I'm gonna I don't care, I'm not interested. And what is she ending up doing? She's back to work. So thus we're coming back to the work. And your point about now going with Madam, who's like telling the story of this blouse, I think it is hard to understand exactly what's being said, and maybe that's fine enough, because what is the emotion that's happening? Now, for me, watching it, I'm watching Madam who's getting wound up. To me, the word's wound up. She's getting wound up. She's getting more agitated. She's pissed off about this other woman and her son, and we have yet to know how they fit in the story, but they do. And she's getting more wound up, and the dresses are piling up, which is silly. Now, I don't need to point, that silliness is happening. I don't think that's what needs to be played. Right now, we just need to be played that she's getting wound up, and Esther's taking that all. It's just being thrown at her. It's being thrown at her. It's wound up. And then what happens? She's got all the dresses, and they walk away, and it is kind of comical. And then she carries them, and she falls. And there is something funny about it. And how do you play that? Because it needs to be kind of buttoned, but not like goofy, and yet it can't just be stupid. So I feel like
as a composer, I'm thinking little murmurings that build up either with speed or with intensity. Bum, 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 so that it's building to the big pratfall at the end.
Sure, exactly. And there are all different ways to do it. But for me, the big thing is she's warm, she's happy. She, for the first time, she's seeing something beautiful, and then she's taken out of it. And then she's got to listen to this woman yap on and make her feel worse and worse. And next thing you know, she's carrying all these clothing, she's back at work, and she's carrying all these clothing, and she's supposed to do something that's going to hurt her, and she ends up falling. So it's not that funny. If you really think about it, it's abusive. You know, It's like she's being taken advantage of, and yet it is kind of comical. She's holding all those dresses. Just like it is funny that you see at the dining table, they're taking one green bean. It's funny, except if you think about it, it's not funny at all. And if people really behave that way, and people behave that way now, that's disgusting. And it's hard to make light of that. It's funny in of itself, but emotionally, I don't watch that going, ha, ha, ha. I'm watching that going, ew, gross. So I also feel bad for Esther, and yet it's funny. She's falling, but it's not like it isn't a comic. It's sad. It's sad she's being treated this way when she's trying to reach out to to the mom and to the daughter and have these intimate moments, and she keeps getting denied.
Mm.
Okay. So that's
well, let's see what you've done.
All right, so I'm going to come back because I'm transitioning in over being told to go take a bath. So I'm going back to about 4:54:02 and playing
My
for
specialty. But I don't mind helping until you find a new girl.
Your task today is of the utmost importance. I shall wait for you in my boudoir, but do not step a foot inside until you have bathed. Yes, they are exquisite, and each one a memory of the man who bought them. But I have little use for them now. Mildred is turning 17 on Sunday.
Oh, that's Santa Lucia Day. What a blessing.
We are Presbyterian.
Oh, no, in Sweden, all the girls celebrate Santa Lucia Day.
I didn't ask you to explain. Go ahead, my dove. Esther, when you finish assisting Mildred, you must iron my blouse. It is my most prized possession. Last summer, when I was having my riding trousers tailored, taken in, of course, with my girl, one of the last English-speaking seamstresses in San Francisco, I'm afraid, who should burst in but Josephine Phelps, my neighbor, nouveau riche, demanding service for some contrived emergency. My girl was forced to serve her to maintain calm while I sat there for half an hour with a needle in my thigh while she ordered this. And I told my girl, as soon as she left, that I would pay her triple for the fabric if she would sell it to me and tell that little upstart that the fabric didn't come in time. Madam Phelps and her son will be in attendance at the party, and so your work must be flawless. Do you understand? Then you are dismissed.
Oh, that's very interesting. Okay, first of all, your scoring technique is so accomplished that you actually made it possible for me to understand that dialogue. Your music assisted me in listening to the woman. That's brilliant.
Oh, good.
And I agree with the way you scored it. It made it less. The fall was less funny. That's very interesting.
Well, and the other thing, it hit me too. Like, the issue is like the first part you heard the whole. You'll have to hear it, on your own headphones where you're not hearing it through the speaker, because there's a lot of quiet stuff going on and coloring, kind of almost impressionistic about the light when she's looking at the dresses, and I didn't know when to stop it because it felt like I needed to find a place to stop it, and it became very clear when she said, "No, no, we're not that," and she kind of shuts Esther down. I'm like, there's the change. I'm gonna go because Esther's in this place. Oh, I'm so happy. That's the shift that Esther goes, okay, I got to get back to work. I can't. I'm not allowed to think that way. She's being shut down, and I think that was where the change happened. And I forgot, but I saw it there. And like, yes, I looked for a place out, and that was my place out. Because stopping at any time before, it's like, well, she's still in that place. Esther's still happy. And then only when the madam says, no, we're not, she's not that.
Yeah.